Hello, this is Adam Humphreys, and welcome back for another SophieSew tutorial. Today, I'm going to be going over the column tool, the curved column tool, or object, and probably a little bit more about layering the embroidery object. But for right now, I want to review this object, the create an outline object. Last time we only made one outline object all around, and we made it we used it to create both the object that we see, the leaf, and this stitching around here. Here we are. So we have the zigzag stitch going around the outline object and the fill region also being defined by the outline object. Now, how do you make more advanced shapes, though? That is a question. So let's do this. Let's say we have a complex shape. I'm just going to make a little something here. But I'm going to stop right here. I'm not going to complete it. So I right click to finish it. There. And now I want to make a little bit more. Just drag that out a little bit. I'm basically making a more complex shape. And I will be using multiple outline objects, as you have probably noticed. So I'm going to right click to finish. I'm going to make another outline object and right click to finish. And then I can go to I'm in the edit mode, change this a little bit. So let's say we want both of these to be a fill region, but they're different objects. You have this, and then you have this, you have something else all together. So we just go to the region creation tool. We just click on one of them. We can click anywhere here. Probably, I think, best to click in the lower part there. Now we click on the next one, and we get these options here. We can click on one of these X's. If it goes around in either direction, where you want it to go around, so either here or here is what we want. So we can just click, no. Then we click on this back onto the outline object we started with. We can find out what we're looking for. This is what we want. So click. No, yes, I want to finish it. Yes, to finish it. And there we have a region object right there. And we would just do the same again with this object. So click on this, click on either one of these. No, click here, click. Alright, so we have two different fill regions there. And just to clarify that, I can go to the region properties and change the color here. So we have two different fill regions, and if we want, we can also click on that outline object and add zigzag stitches just like we did the leaf. So that's how you would make more complex objects. And there's no limit to the complexity that you can have. So we're done with that. But now let's get into the curved columns. This is a dangerous tool, and when I say that, that means it can crash SophieSew, unfortunately. So be very careful. Save often, as you have probably heard before from me. So we're going back and forth here, SophieSew and Photoshop. So we're going to just make a simple curved column. I'm not sure there's a reason to do too many here. Let's start here. Click. What we are going to do when we left click, we are defining one edge of the column. And then when we finish that edge, we right click. And then we'll define the other edge. So I think I can finish that up all the way here. I'll have to change points, and a little bit more here. Right click. Now this is where dangerous things could happen. I right clicked, it didn't seem to crash anything, so that's good. And now let's continue here and here. You'll see that little line it made there. So I will have to go back and change things a little bit. Now I'm going to click, and hopefully it won't crash. Nope, it did not crash. Yay! If it does, just reopen it and try it again, and it should work. So we created a curved column. Now, there are a lot of options to cover with a curved column. Oops. So I will get to those shortly. Refine this just a little bit. Not too much, this just a tutorial. Okay, let's zoom in on that. And remember, control scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Right click to move around. So let's bring up the options on this. Curved column properties. So we got your color, and we have stitch density, which would do exactly what you would expect, just like the fill regions. And I typically use a density of about 6. Seems to give me pretty good. Sometimes you may want to go to the maximum of 7 if you're overlaying another color on top of another. Compensation. You probably know what this is. Unfortunately, it does not work in this version of SophieSew. So no matter how much compensation I give it, nothing happens. You will have to put in your own compensation on this. And then we have the minimum stitch distance and the maximum stitch distance. So that's probably self-explanatory. We bring this low here. Can only bring it so low. Okay, let's try something very interesting. Fill pattern. I am going to make a larger column to demonstrate this. Wait. Cancel, escape that. Let's save. Okay. Right click. 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 Alright. So you'll see these lines here. You're probably wondering what they are. What this is compensating for the stitch distance, which is a good thing. It shouldn't really affect the look too much unless they are lined up right next to each other. In this case, you notice it alternates between a straight stitch and then where it actually stitches. It doesn't stitch here, and it does stitch here. It does not, and it does. It does not, and it does. That usually results in a pretty good, nice, smooth look. But if you use fill stitching, it will actually create lines that you can see, because as you notice, it does not alternate between one and another. It stitches at each point. And you can also offset these, which I would find which have been very useful. Unfortunately, you cannot offset the beginning and the end. Otherwise, I could probably do a little bit more, but this would create a special effect kind of look. You'd see where the thread comes in at these points, and then smooths out, then comes in at these other points here. Or could you go with prog stitching, which I have not messed with. You can actually select a pattern of how you want them to actually stitch inside of it. I'm not sure exactly why there's nothing here, but I have not used this before, so that's just something I thought I would show you. But unfortunately, You see, this is the maximum stitch distance. So that would probably be from here to here, and in the other direction from here to here. As you can see, these alternate. I am not using the fill pattern here. So you can increase that so much. There's nothing there now. But depending on how you have things working, it may or may not work too well, or it may work great. Just be aware of that. And in this case, it would actually look nice. It would actually work fairly well. Then you have the minimum stitch distance. So that is the curved column. Now let's take a look at a different file. Let's bring up something I've been working on for the ponies. Let's bring up Rarity's Eye. Okay, so here we have Rarity's Eye. This actually came out fairly decent the first go. I guess I've been getting used to it a little bit, but you can see here with our viewing options, compensation and no compensation. And you'll notice that the curved column is not changing because I had to enter that manually. But you'll also notice, curved column there, you will also notice this, I guess you could say, underlaying stitch here. Curved columns do not have an underlay option in SophieSew, at least this version. Version 2 probably does, but what I decided to do is just make another curved column, and I just gave it a stitch density of 1.5 and used a fill pattern, as you can see there, to make it work as a really nice stitch underlay. So no option for it here. And that actually, it seemed to work very well. There's also no option, as you probably noticed, for satin stitches for the curved column object. That's probably annoying. I've read or I've heard that other people have used satin stitches for a column. There's an easy solution to that, though. You can just bring up your stitch density to the maximum, which is not quite at satin stitch level, but if you lower this a little bit, you can just run it twice and you will get a nice satin stitch. So let's take a look at the order we have these. Okay, so here we have our little windows. We have to sew these first, so I have those being sewn first, and you'll notice these little options here. Stitch reverse and stitch return, and these are curved columns, by the way, and this will actually reverse where it starts. And I'm not sure why the stitch return button is not showing up. It usually does. I'm not sure why it does not show up here, but you have that option. If you actually look at these, they have the individual options. So stitch from end would be reversing it, and use return stitch actually gives you a stitch that goes back to where it started from. Let's open something else for an example. Bonbon's Cutie Mark. So if we look real close here, well, there we go. Can't see it in that mode, but let's go to the sewing. Let's go to stitching order. That is a lot of stitches. This was pretty annoying. Fortunately, only 2 rounds though. The second round actually seemed to nail it pretty good. Here we are. So you can see that. And this here. This is a return stitch. And let's see, I want to show you how that actually works. And in some cases I have to put in a manual return stitch. So when I first start the outline, it starts from here, goes all the way down, and ends here. But I want to sew this up before I continue this way and go toward this direction. So I had it start on this one, which does have a stitch return, a return stitch, and you can see the result here now that I have the option. So it's an option, and these are not curved columns. These are just defined by the outline objects. So you notice what that does though. Without the stitch return, it just starts on one end and finishes at the other. With a stitch return, it starts at the same end it ends at. So this stitch goes from here to here, so it's covered up by this, and these stitches also cover it up. Zigzag stitches cover up that underlying stitch, so it'll come back and then it'll start from here and it'll continue on all the way up there. And you're probably wondering why it's in so many pieces. It's in so many pieces because I had to have those pieces for the fill regions, the actual underlying fill regions for each color. So let's actually see what this looks like under the simulation here. So this is the order I have it. It completes everything. And you'll notice I actually did not use what you would call the underlay. I did not use an underlay here. They are fairly small regions, but it may still be good to use an underlay. I just didn't think it seemed necessary, but it may help out. I guess I just didn't want to right click that many more times to put one there. But let's continue. Let's fast forward to the outline. And you will, in some situations, you will have to trim these things. You will have to trim this stuff actively as it completes a color or as it moves from one region to the other. So, okay. Here we have the next to be sewn. Whoops. Missed one. Wait. Okay. So we hit play and we can see what it's doing, what it's sewing, how it's sewing. And it might be a lot better to view it with the compensation, actually. And I'm going to wait. There we are. So you'll see how it's sewing here, and this is exactly how it will sew on the machine. So you saw it ran up there and it made a back stitch before it started zigzagging down here, and it'll do the same here. Goes this way, then it'll do a back stitch, then it's going up, back stitch, and then goes around here. So order is very important. The way you see it on this display is not as important as to what you see in the simulation. Make sure your simulation actually sews properly. In this case, it does look accurate in the 3D mode. So I'm not sure what else to cover here. I'm sure there is much more. The text tool, I have not messed with text yet, so I guess the curved column object. The other object you have is the stitch object. Now the stitch object is exactly probably what you would expect. It does nothing but make single stitches. So this is handy, I will say, for when you are making things very small, or a fill region. If you tried to make it using a fill region, it's so small that it would just totally disappear. So I've actually used this on Trixie's Cutie Mark. I have not finished that though, or at least I have not tested it yet. The only problem, once you're done, you can right click again, don't left click. The only problem with this is it does not scale for whatever reason. It does rotate, but it will not scale. Also, the rotation tool is also a dangerous thing, particularly when it comes to curved columns here again, but I don't have any curved columns in this thing. One more thing about fill regions. Let's make a new worksheet here. So let's say we make a shape. Maybe a flower shape. Right click at the end. There is something interesting that you should be aware of. So first of all, let's take this and rotate it a little bit. Okay, so we rotated it. Let's make a fill region. Just click somewhere and click on it again, and just complete it. Okay, now when we go to rotate this, all those lines will rotate with it. Let's see if I can get an easier view here. Hello, there we are. See how it's oriented the same way it was when we first made it a fill region. Keep that in mind when you make certain things. As an example, Rarities Cutie Mark. These diamond shapes here were not oriented like this. They were from top to bottom, tip to tip, straight, and then I made the fill region, and then I rotated them afterward, or at least I rotated one afterward, then duplicated the rest of the three of them. And here again, you can see the back stitch there on each one of these. I'm going to simulate this right quick, and I'm going to slow it down quite a bit, maybe 10. Let's skip through the regions. Okay, so here we have it. We can see what exactly is going on here when it starts sewing. Stitch by stitch, it's going to the end with a return stitch, not a back stitch, excuse me, with a return stitch. Then it is zigzagging over that stitch. And you'll also notice it is stitching around here as it's going from one to the other. And at the end, it's just sewing around that. I have not tested this yet, but hopefully it will work out alright. So I think that's probably it for SophieSew at the moment, unless I find or discover something new. Just keep in mind the strange things about the clipboard not working in any program. If you have SophieSew open, close SophieSew and reopen it, and your clipboard will probably work again. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to understand. All this wind we've been having has been blowing in quite a few allergens, so hopefully this was helpful. Thank you very much.